Welcome to the Full Nelson. There's a new king in town when it comes to single stack concealed carry handguns, and it is the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield Performance Center model. This particular handgun takes everything that the standard Shield did, which I believed to be the best value for money of any single stack concealed carry handgun. This one takes everything that handgun had and improves upon it. It has a better trigger, fiber optic sights, and it is ported from the factory to help reduce recoil. This particular handgun can be had for between $350 and $400. You may be able to find it slightly cheaper than that depending on where you shop or if there's any rebate or anything like that going on. But that's approximately what they retail for at the time I made this video. Now I'm going to go into a few more details about this handgun. Any of you who are on the fence, you can stop the video right now and go out and buy it. This would be my #1 recommendation. And I own a Glock 43 and I'm a huge Glock fan, but you would be blind to not recognize all of the things that are included with this handgun from the factory, and also to not recognize just how awesome the trigger is compared to any other handgun that I have tried from the factory. So let's begin with the trigger. I said the trigger is an improvement over the standard Shield. It is slightly lighter. I shouldn't say slightly lighter, it seems significantly lighter, and it breaks incredibly clean. I've noticed with Glocks that when you put a trigger connector in, oftentimes what it does is it reduces the weight of the trigger pull, but it also makes the trigger slightly mushier. Well, Smith & Wesson have it figured out, and they have made this trigger have a lighter pull but still be every bit as crisp. You pull the trigger until it hits a wall. For any of you who've shot ARs or any two-stage trigger, this is essentially feels like a two-stage trigger in a handgun. You pull the trigger and have the take up until you hit the wall, and a little bit more pressure, and it breaks through the wall, and it breaks really crisp and really clean. It is a phenomenal trigger. I find it really easy to shoot accurately with this handgun because of that trigger. Really easy to shoot quickly and keep my rounds on target. It's the best trigger of any single stack concealed carry handgun I have tried. The only handgun I think may be able to compete with it, from what I have heard, I have not actually tried it, is the LC9S. I've also heard has a phenomenal trigger, but I would honestly be shocked if it's better than the Performance Center trigger in this. This is the best trigger of any single stack concealed carry handgun I've tried. So the trigger is a big improvement over the standard Shield, and it is better than any other trigger I've tried. Let's talk about the sights. The sights on this handgun are 3-dot sights, and they are fiber optic sights. I prefer 3-dot sights over any goofy stuff like what Glocks come with or anything like that. So what about these fiber optic sights compared to the standard Shield sights? Well, to me, they're probably a wash. I could take either one of them and I would be happy. I prefer these sights outside where the light catches them and they really glow, and I prefer those standard white 3-dots on the normal Shield for indoor use. I just find it easier for my eye to pick up the white than it is to pick up some of these fiber optics when there's not very good lighting. Probably better than either of those would be if you had some Trijicon TFOs I just got two things mixed up. If you had some Trijicon night sights, or if you had some TrueGlow TFOs. TrueGlow TFOs combine kind of the best of both worlds. You get fiber optic, plus they're also night sights. So in low light they work well, and in high light they work well. They're pretty sweet. That would probably be the best thing you could do. So there is a little room for improvement in sights category, which is put night sights on it. That would really make it the ultimate. It would probably be hard to keep at the price point it's at now if you added night sights to it, but the sights are great. They're as good as any other single stack concealed carry handgun I've tried, so the sights are great. Now, this gun is also ported, as I mentioned. You'll notice the slide has these 3 cuts. It is not ported in all 3 places. In fact, you can see up here, it's only ported right there in the barrel. It's not ported anywhere else along here. So why did they have 3 cuts? I suppose for aesthetics, and yeah, it makes it look cool, I guess, in the aesthetics department, but it's really only ported in the one spot. I'll show you that a little more when I disassemble the firearm. Porting helps reduce recoil, and that is noticeable with this handgun. It has slightly less recoil. Is it enough that you should run out and get your gun ported? Not in my opinion. 9mm already is pretty low recoil, but it is an improvement in my opinion. Now, I've always been under the impression that porting a gun is a trade-off, and most of the time it is. The biggest trade-off that you end up with when the gun is ported, well, there's a few things to consider. Some of them I think are bigger deals than others, but the biggest one for me is usually noise. When you port a handgun, it's almost like putting a muzzle brake on a firearm. At least in my experience, it makes it considerably louder. At least that's the way it was on a Glock 40 that was ported that I had the chance to shoot. It reduced recoil, but man, that thing was loud. If you ever shot it with no hearing protection, it wasn't just uncomfortable. Your ears would be ringing. You'd be pretty much deaf. I don't know what it is with this particular gun, but it seems to have almost not increased the noise at all. I can't notice hardly any difference in the noise department with this handgun being ported. So I don't see any major drawback there. Another thing that some people are concerned about with the gun being ported is that you could get debris or things inside the slide through the serrations in the top of the slide. Is that a real big concern or a big deal? No, not really. I just don't see it unless you're going to go swimming in the sand or something with the thing loaded. That's just not an issue. For a concealed carry handgun where it's going to be in a holster and all that's pretty much going to be covered anyway, that's just not even an issue. So you get the benefit of reduced recoil without any real drawbacks, in my opinion. So that's my particular feeling on it being ported. There's one other thing I will mention about ported guns, which is some people are under the impression that if you shoot them in low light or darkness, it will cause you to go blind from the muzzle blast coming up through the ports. I have found that that is not an issue at all. It doesn't cause any blindness any more than the standard fireball that comes out your muzzle. That is, if you have the chance, go out and try a ported gun in low light or in the dark, and you will see that's an internet myth, in my opinion. It's just not even an issue. So you end up with a better trigger, better sights, it's ported. I don't know of any other single stack handgun that offers all of those features at this price point. I don't know of any company that's even making a single stack concealed carry firearm that's ported from the factory other than Smith & Wesson. And I don't know of any company that makes one with a better trigger than Smith & Wesson. So in those two aspects, I think it's as good as it gets. There may be companies doing fiber optic sights from the factory. Like I said, for me, that's, I could take them or leave them. That doesn't really matter to me. But anyway, as far as the trigger is concerned, it being ported, all of those things are things that no other company does. Yeah. So let's move on to capacity here. This particular firearm has the same capacity as a standard shield, which is 7+1 or 8+1 when you use the extended magazine, which will stick out of the handgun a little bit further. So that's the capacity. That's easily as good and better than some of its competitors. It's better than a Glock 43, which is only 6+1. So that's what you have in terms of capacity. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to disassemble this particular firearm. As you can see, the firearm is empty. I safety checked it before I even began the video. So in order to disassemble a Smith & Wesson M&P shield or shield Perfermance Center, they're all the same. You lock the slide to the rear, pull the magazine out of the mag well. Obviously you need to check and make sure it's empty. Then you rotate this lever downward. Then you push this button, which is the slide release, back down and ease the slide forward. And then you pull the trigger and the slide comes off. Okay? That's how you disassemble it. The internals are just like a Glock, a Springfield XD. A lot of the companies that make these Palmer frame things or Palmer frame handguns, it's similar to all of those. So this is what I was talking about with it being ported. As you can see, there are only ports on those two places there on the barrel. So that's it. So we'll go ahead and reassemble this this gun. And to reassemble it, you basically do the reverse of what you did to disassemble it. You put the slide on, pull it all the way to the back and lock it in place. Rotate the lever back into place and let the slide go back forward. Now the gun is reassembled. So that concludes pretty much my insights and my impressions of this Smith & Wesson M&P Shield Performance Center model. Like I said, I think it is the best single stack concealed carry handgun available on the market today. Nothing really competes with it at its price point, and even at higher price points, I don't know of any handgun that I think is better from the factory than this one is. So if you're looking for a single stack concealed carry handgun, this would be my #1 recommendation by far. There's nothing even close right now. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below and I'll try to answer any questions you may have. That concludes my review. See ya.